Hello everybody and welcome to Evil Ted Live here on twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing Charlie the Robot from Scooby-Doo. Matter of fact, I'm doing this for Dragon Con. My friend Rev Chumley and Colin 9 are also doing characters. They're actually doing villains from Scooby-Doo. And I fell in love with Charlie. I thought Charlie would be a great one to do. So today I'm going to pattern out his head. I had a friend do a drawing for me. We took it to the Xerox store and I blew it up a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and pattern it out and cut it out in foam so I can make a pattern. Whew, it's going to be an adventure. You guys ready to get started? I know I am. Here's the drawing of Charlie the Robot. My friend Aaron Farmer, better known as Robots in Love, he did a nice illustration of Charlie's head for me. Got a front view and a side view. And the purpose of this is I'm going to take these guys and trace them onto insulation foam. And so I realized what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the side profile and trace this and cut out two pieces. And normally I'd like to stack both of them, put them in a bandsaw, but the bandsaw is only short enough a throw to get these cut out. So now our next step is I'm going to glue these two together with spray 77. I'm going to apply it to both the surfaces, wait about 5 minutes, and then stick them together. So let's go ahead and do that off camera. Now I got these two stuck together. We're going to plot out the front half of the face and realizing on the original drawing we have here, I'm only going to do half the face. So we don't need to, for the pattern, I don't need to sculpt the full head. I'm only going to do half of the head. So with that being said, I'm only going to do half the face. The ears are going to be attachments, so let's go ahead and cut these off. We don't need these ears. To make this a little bit easier, I cut the ear off, but let's go ahead and just cut this right down the middle to trace. Now we see this notch here, this was where his mouth was, so we know that's our reference. I'm going to go ahead and try to take a majority of this stuff off. Before I start sanding, I'm going to start whittling with a knife. Well, there it is. Got my pattern thought out. To reproduce this, we're going to cover it in foil. The foil is just a damper, so your duct tape will not stick. Now the taping begins. All right, we have the head covered in duct tape, and here's my designs. And of course, more like the blueprints of Charlie's face. What I'm going to do before I start cutting this into a pattern, I'm going to translate some of the designs onto Charlie's face. The reason being is that when I go to cut this out, I might be able to use some of these design lines as pattern lines. And it's always good to do that, therefore you can hide your seams by working them into the design. All right, I got my lines all decided where they're gonna be cut. I have my registration marks dialed in. I'm very happy with this. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out with an X-Acto blade. But before I cut all these lines on the top, I'm going to go ahead and cut these edges. You can see all these, the slack on this, I overlapped it. So I just find it's just easier to do that first. So let's remove that. All right, now that I remove the back of the edge, you have to remind yourself too that these edges, when making the pattern, you have to put registration marks on these as well. Even though this is not connecting to something, it's going to connect to itself because you're going to flip this pattern and make it the opposite. So we only have the right side, so we're going to do the left side. And make sure that before you take this off, you have to put registration marks on this as well. All right, we got this all cut out and laid out. My next step is we're going to go through an X-Acto blade and cut my registration marks out. These are very important because you have to have it. If you want to transfer this over to paper or foam, if you guys just want to do this and go directly to foam, you can, but the thing is you have to make sure you make marks, so you have to cut your registration marks. Now how I like to go about doing this, I take a sharp X-Acto blade and I start at the top of the Sharpie line, here, and here. Now the thing is, you got to cut dead center. Make sure these guys line up perfectly. I cut a triangle just right over my Sharpie line. Therefore, if I transfer it on, the guy can perfectly line up. Lay on my poster board, and then I proceed to lay my patterns down. And the reason I do that, again, is because I can, now that I have this, again, I'm going to take my straight pins, I'm going to pin this down. That's where the foam comes in handy because I'm able to pin right to my poster board, so I can lock this pattern down so I get an accurate representation of what I made. Now everything's been traced out, the next step is to cut everything out. Now the edge here, I want to make this straight. Now, if you look at these lines, they're all kind of little wiggly and kind of messed up. And what I do when I cut this up, I just clean these lines up when I cut. All right, now we transferred all the patterns onto poster board. We're gonna go back and do the registration mark. But since it's in poster board now, I have a notch cutter. This thing is wonderful. If you wanna know where to get these, I have on my website, eviltedsmith.com. I have this in my shopping supply list. It's a little notch cutter. And a lot of people use it. It's great. You just put up, you just line up the Sharpie mark, put the notch and go, boop, look at that, doom, done, perfect, I love it. And it's cuts notches, so you line them up and do it. I used to do this with an X-Acto blade, but now I can do it super fast with my notch cutter. So watch me go, boop. All right, now I have the poster board templates. All my notches are cut. The next step is I'll be tracing this onto foam to make my test pattern. A 1/4 inch foam I have, I'm going to use as a test to see if this pattern comes together. Now when making this pattern, I realized there's parts of it, when I pattern out, I can still make this one piece. As you can see in this pattern right here, I've realized this is gonna be Charlie's face and the seam. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, I'm just gonna go ahead and trace this, flip it, and do this as one piece. I don't want a seam in his face. I'm gonna do a line down the face. And the reason I do that is so that I have a registration when I flip it. So this is a pattern, I'm gonna put my pattern just over the Sharpie line so I get a little more accurate representation of what I want. Just a little heads up on everybody, there's one thing in these patterns I have not done, I forgot to do. Making these is that this is literally the right side of the head. So what I do is I label this right. So therefore when you do this, you do the left. Everything is the left. So you flip it over. All right, everything's been traced onto my foam. I am ready to cut. So of course I have my tool, I have my box cutter, my Kershaw sharpener. Again, if you want to know where to get these, go to my website, eviltedsmith.com, go to my shopping list, essential supplies. This is essential. Get one of these. Buy this, shop to my link, it's awesome. It is a game changer. Because nothing dulls a blade faster than foam. All right, first thing I like to do is I want to just gotta separate all these parts. Let's do that first. The reason I do this is because it's so much easier to cut these pieces when they're just smaller parts, so you get all the details. Now, people always ask me, when you're cutting on the line, what line do you cut on? Now, usually with foam and fabricating, it's not that important. But if you want to get really precise, you understand that when you're tracing your pattern with a Sharpie line, the Sharpie is on the outside of the pattern. So the best thing to do is to cut on the inside of your Sharpie line to get an accurate representation of your pattern. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to cut on the inside very carefully and very slowly. Like I said, it's not a deal breaker. It's just that when you get into a habit of doing a little bit more detailed work, that's just usually a rule to work with and stick with. Okay, all the parts have been cut out into foam. I got my super thin foam. What I'm going to do before I assemble this, I'm going to start to put a curl on these. I know, for example, this is the face part. So I'm going to heat this up, curl it, get it all shaped in place. The same with this. So I like to heat, curl, and shape these guys up before I glue them together, which makes the assembly a lot easier. Got my trusty heat gun. The Evil Ted Foam Anvil. What this is, it's just a 3-inch acrylic dome. I 5-minute epoxied onto a 1-inch dowel rod, screwed into a base, stuck it on here. So I kind of use this because I can just push the foam and kind of curl it. It gives me a round foam. But again, if you don't have one of these, you don't have to make one. You can use either a curved ball or something just cylindrical. You can just kind of push the foam onto. Sometimes I even use my knee. And this time, I'm just going to do this one individually because I want to just try to do something at the same time. The foam cools very quickly, so I just kind of just do one spot at a time. I can see that's all curled in now. Now I'm just going to focus on doing this side. Now my foam parts are heat curled. I'm ready to go. My next step is gluing. So I have my trusty Barge cement. I got my scrap foam for trace the foam on. I'm going to start with some pieces. Let's start with the top of the head pieces. Let's do those first. Now that the glue is dry, I put at least 2 coats. This is the key. This is where registration marks make a difference. This is the front of the head. And I know for a fact this is where it's going to line up. So I touch my edge. And as you're lining them on, you've got to keep track and make sure they line up with your registration marks. Because you want to reproduce what you made on your foil and your duct tape pattern. Now, if you look at the spacing, it looks pretty far. So what you have to do because that is priority. So you got to push and twist and squeeze. Don't think these patterns are going to fall naturally in place, because you have to squeeze and push. So that's why I'm doing this. You got to make sure these guys line up. So there's going to be a little squeezing and pushing involved. Okay, there it is. I got it all stuck together. This is pretty much my prototype. I've got it all together. Now the next big point is, let's see if this fits. Now, granted, that's why I haven't really put the eye holes in yet, because I really don't know where the eye holes are going to fall. But oh, look, the neck hole's too small. But that's not an issue right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the neck. We're just going to do that. Here we go again. Take two. On the head. Hey kids, don't do that at home. You could suffocate with Barge. Well, success. I got the shape I wanted. It actually, I was afraid it was going to be too small. I got the Charlie profile. I got the look from the front. I like it. It's definitely going to come together once I get the eyes centered out. He has a big jaw line. Has kind of a big mouth, which I'm realizing I'm going to put a thinner piece of craft foam on top of that to create that jaw. Have it a little more pronounced. It's going to be fun. But the neck probably have to be slit. I'll rig up some kind of a Velcro attachment or something for that. But it's close. Needs a little bit of tail end, but guys, that is pretty much it. That's how I went about patterning out Charlie, the robot head. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And this video is from Twitch. I did this on twitch.tv/eviltedsmith. If you're new to Twitch, come over and hang out. I stream lives on Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I stream on Thursdays from noon to 2. Everybody, thank you so much for watching and hanging out, and catch you back next time on Evil Ted Live.